A pretty small VTuber in Idaho was recently arrested for having material.
BeeMorning has been arrested for possession of CSAM.
For years, the VTuber BeeMorningVT made sure everyone in his community knew exactly where he stood. He had rules posted publicly and pinned to his commission sheet. He called other people out when he thought they were protecting predators, and he was loud about it, louder than the situation ever really called for. And then in February 2026, police executed a search warrant at his home in Lewiston, Idaho. What they allegedly found on his phone was so much worse than anyone in his community could have prepared for. But you know what else is terrible? My bank account after my recent disaster. You see this number? This is exactly how much money I need to repair the structural damages to my evil lair after my latest mold infestation. Now, how do I plan to acquire this wealth without leaving my room? Free cash. Free Cash is a free online platform that literally pays you real money to play mobile games, test apps, and complete surveys. And unlike my promises to feed the mods trapped in my basement, Free Cash actually delivers. They have a 4.7 star rating on Trustpilot, which is significantly higher than my approval rating as your president. Let me show you how to min-max your income. You just log in and pick an offer. I'm picking Goblin Miners because I can both earn up to $3,486 and they'll fit right at home there, back into the grinding mines. Just click the offer and follow the steps. However, make sure you enable app tracking on your phone. If you don't let the corporate overlords track you, they won't know how to give you your rewards. I've been earning cash while doing everyday things such as watching TV, ignoring my chat's attempt to gaslight me into being a horse, and actively avoiding my taxes. It is incredibly easy with a minimal cash out of $25 only for the first time. After that, payouts are unlimited. I've already withdrawn my earnings straight to PayPal to fund my ever-growing Fusion collection. If you want to monetize your screen addiction, scan the QR code on screen or click my exclusive link in the description. When you start your first offer using my link, you get a massive $10 sign-up bonus. I'm going to check back in a week to see exactly how much money I've extracted from this platform, and you should do it too. The more offers you complete, the more rewards you unlock. Don't miss out on your $10 sign-up bonus. Secure the bag, trade your remaining neuro for dopamine, and let Free Cash fund your super chat addiction. A warm thanks to Free Cash for generously funding this video and bankrolling my malevolent plans for world domination. Now, back to the video. If you're new here, a VTuber is a real person performing through an animated avatar. They stream, they play games, they talk to fans in real time, and they build communities the same way any other content creator does. The format grew out of anime and gaming culture, and like both of those spaces, a meaningful chunk of the audience skews young, sometimes very young. Most of these communities live on Discord, where the technical age requirement to sign up is 13, and the actual age verification is, well, you type in a birthday and that's it, you're in. And Discord knows minors are on the platform. According to a Senate investigation released this year, Discord alone submitted nearly 500,000 reports of suspected child exploitation to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2025. Their own transparency reports tells the same story. In just the first quarter of 2022, Discord disabled over 826,000 accounts for child safety violations. That was the single largest category of accounts removed that quarter. So there is an infrastructure for catching predators on Discord. It does exist, and the enforcement numbers are massive. What doesn't exist is anything meaningful stopping a predator from being there in the first place. Discord's age gate is self-reported, and the Not Safe for Work channel labels are self-applied. If a creator marks their entire presence as 18+, everyone around them will simply assume the problem is already handled. It's settled. But putting 18+ in your bio doesn't verify a single person who walks through the door. And as we're about to see, the person who benefited most from that flimsy system was the one who had every reason to make sure nobody looked too close at who was actually in his space and what was actually going on his Discord. The first thing you notice about BeeMorningVT's online presence is how much of it was built around telling you what he was. Not showing you, telling you. Loudly and repeatedly in every public channel available to a small creator trying to establish himself in a space that runs almost entirely on community trust and reputation. His avatar was a pink-haired anime character. His PFP was basically a pink anime guy with a little fishnet arm thingy. He called himself the Femboy mommy. His bio on Discord read, "A gay twink Femboy. He was 23 years old, operating out of Lewiston, Idaho, and he was building what's known in VTuber circles as a LewTuber brand, which is essentially a creator whose content and persona are explicitly sexual and aimed at an adult audience. Well, in theory. He posted Nazi pictures of himself regularly, tweeted about wanting guys to call him mommy, and posted selfies from stores, in his bedroom, and in the bathtub. There's one particularly memorable post, well, for all the wrong reasons, where he's captioning himself as a little gremlin, teehee. And while researching this video, I may have unfortunately came across a few of his ass pics. I am not getting paid enough for that. But here's where all of this becomes something other than just a small creator being horny on main. In May 2025, there was a drama building around a French-speaking VTuber named Ririgaki. Allegations of were circulating about her at the time due to some of her online behavior, some of which used her tweets about to try to make this case. Now, I didn't investigate those allegations at all because they're absolutely not the point of this video. The point is what BeeMorningVT did with them. Another creator he apparently knew, a VTuber named Demi, came out publicly to defend Ririgaki, and BeeMorningVT noticed. He went after Demi, and his message read, "Not going to lie, I find it ironic that the Christian YouTuber is siding with the French people. Well, how have the tables turned?" So he's calling Demi a hypocrite for defending someone facing allegations about pedophilia. That means that he understood that there was a social risk in attaching his take to his main handle. But he said it anyway because being seen saying it was his entire point. And this is where the Demi callout sits next to something else from his profile that people went back to after everything fell apart. In November of 2025, BeeMorningVT posted that he was opening writing commissions. $7 per 200 words for safe for work content, $9 for not work, and 10 and up for scripts. Standard rates for a smaller creator, but pinned right underneath the pricing was his list of rules, the thing he would not write about. And the list reads, for anyone who isn't deep in anime culture, and refer to child-presenting characters, small features, young-looking designs, cute characters. In the context of a not safe for work commission sheet, however, when someone writes no or no the meaning is clear. He's drawing this public line. I will not create content involving characters that look young or that look like children. After his arrest became public, people went back through his timeline the way communities always do when something like this breaks. And what some Twitter users found when they come through his media tab was that it was full of GIFs and images from anime with style characters. Lucky Star, slice of life stuff, cute small character art style that are often used in GIFs on Twitter. None of what they found was though. Psych! Okay, well, maybe that one can be considered sexual. He wasn't engaging with Footlong, which is the sexualized version of Footlong, in any obvious way than anyone could point to. Then people searched his account for and directly, and it also came back with no results. So, you've got the Demi call-out where he's publicly shaming someone over allegations, and right next to it you've got this commission sheet rule drawing a moral line over not wanting to write about lollies. But his actual media tab is full of the very art style he was supposedly drawing a boundary against. None of it is for sure, but perhaps that was the point. Perhaps he didn't want to draw any attention to it while wanting to position himself as the guy who would say what everyone else was afraid to call out. Whether any of that was a sincere stance or just part of the costume, I don't have enough to tell you for certain. Whether BeeMorning is pro, anti, or neutral towards law, there's just not enough information for me to be able to tell you for sure. But what I can tell you is that he damn well sure wanted people to hear him on these two specific issues, and he wanted these positions to be visible. There's this pattern that people sometimes talk about, the loudest in the room effect. Someone who is constantly publicly and performatively opposed to a specific bad thing, louder than the situation seems to require, and then it turns out that they were doing the exact same thing themselves. It's not a rule, sure. Plenty of people are vocal about something because they actually care about it. But when the performance is that visible, it's at least something worth keeping in mind for what comes next. Every major platform where people share space online is legally required to report suspected illegal material involving minors to something called the Cyber Tip Line. It's operated by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the NCMEC, and it functions as the federal clearinghouse for this entire category of crime. Every major social media company participates in this because if it is found that they knew about this kind of material and didn't report it, they would be breaking the law. The scale of what moves through that system is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. In 2025, the Cyber Tip Line received over 21 million reports containing more than 61 million images, videos, and other files related to suspected child exploitation. The way the process works is that once a platform sends a tip, the NCMEC reviews it and routes it based on the suspect's IP address. If they're in the US, the report goes to the FBI and to the Regional Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, or the ICAC, which handles the investigation at the state level. The task force picks up the case, verifies the evidence, and if it holds up, it goes to a judge for a search warrant. The whole pipeline is totally invisible to the person being investigated, and that's the entire point. People think they can do whatever they want behind a screen and nobody will ever know, but law enforcement has tools that the general public doesn't have access to. And when they come for you, there's no warning and no chance to delete anything. So yeah, the FBI open up meme. FBI open up! That's literally how it works. By the time you find out what happened, they're already at your door. And that is exactly what happened on February 11th, 2026. Someone on Discord reported an account connected to BeeMorningVT to the Cyber Tip Line. That tip went to the NCMEC, and the NCMEC identified who owned that account and where they were located. And the report was forwarded to the Idaho Attorney General's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, the Lewiston Police Department, and the FBI. Together, they obtained a residential search warrant, and on February 11th, they showed up at a home in Lewiston, Idaho of BeeMorningVT and seized a cell phone and a laptop. The entire investigation that would have ended his career and put him behind bars started because someone on Discord saw something on his account and decided to report it to a federal hotline. One report from one person is the reason any of this happened at all. Court filings in Nez Perce County identified the person behind the avatar as Leif Andrew Asapi, 23, charged with 5 counts of sexual exploitation of a child. The charge stems from the same ICAC investigation, the pipeline that starts with a Discord tips and ends with law enforcement at your front door. Investigators conducted a forensic review of his phone and reporting finding multiple files believed to contain child material. And then there's a detail that changes everything about this story. According to the court document, some of the video content allegedly showed the sexual of infants. YouTube commentator Cam Nuggets, who also covered this case, pointed out something about the filing that makes this even harder to sit with. Because the video were found directly on BeeMorning's personal camera, Cam Nuggets concluded that this may not have been a situation where someone was passively downloading or trading files in group chats. The nature of the evidence suggests something far worse.
This person was meeting up with these people they were meeting with on Discord, from what it sounds like, recording it and then keeping these things.
That's his analysis of the document, not something stated outright in the court filings, which are pretty bare-boned, by the way, just to be clear. But it's the conclusion a lot of people have reached independently after reading the same paperwork. If that interpretation is correct, the implications are as bad as you think they are. The next day, on February 12th, BeeMorningVT was arrested and transported to the Nez Perce County Jail and charged with 5 felony counts of sexual exploitation of a child. He didn't have time to tweet or scrub his account, he just disappeared from the internet. One day, the pink-haired femboy mommy was posting topics and calling people out, and the next day, he was in a cell. Most VTubers who get into trouble just disappear. The accounts go dark, and the person behind the screen fades back into anonymity, back into obscurity. And that's kind of the whole point of the format, right? The avatar is the shield. But BeeMorningVT didn't get that option, and the reason for it is almost like poetic justice. This guy had spent years deliberately posting his own face online. Selfies on Twitter, not safe photos showing his face and body, pictures of himself at stores and at home and everywhere in between. He was a face-out creator wearing an anime avatar on stream because the persona was built on being a thirst trap. If he had been a traditional VTuber with his face hidden and his identity protected, then a mugshot in a local Idaho paper dies in that local Idaho paper. Nobody in his community would have ever connected it to the pink-haired anime guy they've been watching. But because he'd chosen to show his face 1,000 times over, the identification only took a couple hours. The local outlets ran his mugshot with his real name. Lewiston Today published on February 13th, and other news followed up on February 28th. For most people reading the Idaho crime blotter that week, it was just another entry, a name they'd never even seen, and a face that they didn't even recognize. But for a very specific group of people on the internet, that mugshot was like a punch to the stomach. Once it started circulating in VTuber spaces, the dots connected and fast. Reddit threads on r/VTuber drama exploded with screenshots and old tweets and people piecing the full pictures together in real time. The selfies he'd been posting for years, the engagement baits for thirst, for clout, had become a case file. The thing he'd done to build his brand is the exact same thing that tore it all down. And then within hours, the VTubers closest to him started posting their responses. J Space Captain VTuber went first on February 23rd. I am no longer associated and cutting ties with B/BeeMorningVT/BeeMorningstar. It has come to my attention today that B was arrested for allegedly possessing child material and charged with 5 counts of These are from trusted sources. I absolutely do not condone these actions at all and find it absolutely sickening and disgusting. I would also suggest to cut ties with this person. I will not be doxing the report, but I can say that the reports are publicly available online, and I will be taking some time for myself to process all of this information from your captain. Then Onidamio posted the same day. Same structure, basically confirming the news, expressing disgust, encouraging people to contact. They added that they've read the police report personally and said that the allegations were gut-wrenching and worse than you think. And then Sid the Shrimpy VT a few hours later had basically the same opener. A big important announcement, same line about no longer being associated. He added that he'd been very close with B and that this was a lot for him to process. And then Mr. Slime VA, the same night around 11:30 p.m., a little more raw than the others, he wrote that he never thought he'd have to make this kind of post so soon and that he hoped he'd never see him in this space again. When you read those statements next to each other, the community pointed out 2 things. First, well, they were almost identical. Not similar, identical. Down to the punctuation mistakes, down to the random capitalization, which made it seem as if they coordinated it before posting, which is not a crime of its own, of course. When it comes to sensitive internet topics, these kinds of responses often get reviewed by other people before going up. But I don't think I've ever seen multiple people post the exact same statement word for word like this before, which was surely an eyebrow-raising move. In fact, I think this is the first time I see this on this channel. However, the real crime was certainly the random capitalization. I still fail to understand why these sentences were formatted like a YouTube clickbait title. On top of that, and to clarify these community speculations, Jay had actually drafted his statement with the help of his mod team first and then sent it to his group of friends, which in turn seemed to have copied or inspired themselves from parts of his statement to release their own statements, which is why they all looked so similar. Secondly, and this is the part that they actually received a lot of criticism for, all of them seemed to be protecting his identity. Jay said that he wouldn't be doxing doxing the report, Ani Damio said they didn't want to jeopardize a trial or put themselves at legal risk by posting quote-unquote doxing info. Sid said he'd share it in DMs, but not publicly. And look, I understand where that instinct comes from. Revealing real names and faces is extremely taboo in VTubing, and for good reasons. The anonymity of the format is something creators protect fiercely, like a state secret, and doxing is one of the worst things you can do in this space. But context matters. This isn't some kind of community drama or a call-out post over some bad takes. This is a person who has been arrested and charged with 5 felony counts related to the exploitation of infants in a community where a significant number of the people are minors or young adults. The mugshot is public record. The article was written by a journalist and published on a local TV station's website. The state of Idaho made this information public the moment they booked him. Sharing a publicly available news article about someone's arrest is not doxing. Sid eventually shared the article after people kept on asking. Mr. Slime VA was the first to actually link the news coverage in their post. So the information did end up going out, but the initial framing across multiple statements treated shared public news article like it was crossing some major ethical line. And when the alternative is leaving an alleged online identity disconnected from his real-world arrest in a community full of young fans, I think that's the wrong place to draw the line. However, people did really go hard on them at the time, which sort of shifted the focus from BeeMorning's horrendous behavior to an entire discussion on doxing, which is silly. At the end of the day, what matters is that awareness on this topic was spread. They are not the ones who committed the crime, he did. And I'll even acknowledge this, making this video, putting his name and face on screen, it comes with risk for me too. YouTube's policies around identifying information are strict, and there's a real chance this video gets flagged, demonetized, or even worse, having the video completely taken down for showing what's already public information. It happened before when they removed my video about a creator with domestic abuse allegations. So I understand the self-preservation math, I just think in this case the math points in a different direction. But if you want to support the kind of coverage that I do, that doesn't pull punches even when the algorithm punishes it, Patreon is there for exactly that reason. For as little as $5 a month, you get access to over 100 videos, and it also means I can actually make the content I want without YouTube's AI moderation breathing down my neck. Link in the description. But back to the video. After the statements went up, the replies started filling in the rest of the picture. One creator said she'd cut ties with him early last year because there were already red flags with his attitude. Another said that had bad feelings for months but kept it to themselves because all he showed was entitled pick-me behavior. Not enough to actually say something. And then one person straight up said that they've had red flags about him before any of this came out and had kept their distance this whole time. And then there was this other one, someone who'd been waiting on a writing commission from him and couldn't figure out why he'd gone quiet. Turns out the reason he wasn't answering was because he was in jail. VTuber posted a longer thread about their personal experience with him, how he'd become shallow over time, talked about people behind their backs, and how his relationship ended because he ignored his partner's discomfort and posted lewd photos regardless. They said when the news first broke, they felt shocked and sick, but also said, I figured this was gonna happen once they read further into the charges. Multiple people across multiple reply threads are all saying some kind of version of the same thing, that had feelings for months and kept it to themselves. Because what are you supposed to do with a gut feeling about someone who hasn't done anything visible yet? The court document alleged that his possession of this material spanned from at least December 2024 to August 2025, over a year. So while he was building the brand we just walked through, while he was posting the commission sheet with will not do and at the top, while he was going after Demi and calling someone else a pedo for his community to see, he allegedly had this disgusting material on his phone the entire time. The hypocrisy is astounding. As of right now, BeeMorningVT is sitting in a Nez Perce County jail. His bond was set at $300,000 at his initial appearance. He has since pleaded not guilty to all 5 counts. His next court date is a status conference scheduled for early April 2026. If convicted on all counts, he might face up to 50 years in prison and a lifetime registration. The thing that caught BeeMorningVT wasn't his community, it wasn't even the people who had a bad feeling but kept it to themselves, and it wasn't the VTubers who only cut ties after the mugshot matched the selfies. What caught him was a report filed on his Discord account to a federal hotline. Someone on Discord saw something and decided to say something. And that single decision is the reason he's sitting in a jail cell right now instead of streaming. The 18+ label on his profile didn't prevent any of this. Discord's self-reported age gate didn't prevent any of this either. Community trust he'd spent years building, none of that did anything to protect anyone. The only thing that worked was someone using the reporting pipeline that already existed. And yet, Discord is pushing ID verification because it wants platforms to do more to keep minors out of space they shouldn't be in. And in theory, that's great, except what's actually going to happen is that legitimate users get punished with higher barriers to entry and their sensitive data gets put at risk, while people like BeeMorningVT will undoubtedly find a way around the system because criminals never play by the rules. Law-abiding citizens like us do, and we get screwed over it every single time. At the end of the day, BeeMorningVT spent years carefully constructing a public persona. Rules, the callouts, the moral posturing on the exact issues he was allegedly committing in private. He built that wall brick by brick so that nobody in his community would ever think to look at what he was actually doing on his phone. And all it took was one report to bring the whole thing crashing down. I don't know, maybe next time, don't throw stones from a glass house. Thank you for watching. Videos like this would not be possible without the contribution of passionate fans in my Discord. If you love VTubers or you just want to hang out around cool people, come join the gang at discord.gg/Rima. Recently, I've had 2 videos removed from this channel and I'm constantly fighting limited demonetization threats. This video will most certainly get demonetized as well. AI moderation is a never-ending uphill battle, and YouTube's automated systems don't care about free speech or accurate information. So, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to support that, Patreon is the move. Link is in the description. And if Patreon isn't your thing, you can use code CLUB at GamerSubs for 10% off, or grab some merch at Uwu Market. Or pick up my cards as a playable VTuber TCG over at Rift Runners and use code RIMA to get you 10% off. Hype the video from your mobile to push it in the algorithm for completely free, or become a member of this channel to become immortalized in the credits. Like, comment, subscribe. It all helps more than you know. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one. For years, BeeMorningVT and the Not Safe for Work channel lab, he understood. So that means that he understood that, but while minimizing as much damage as he potentially. You've got the demi call out where he's publicly focus and what some Twitter's users and where they were located, and the record as Leif Andrew Azabi. According to the court documents, some of the video content, and his next court date is a status conference scheduled for late. He was 22 years old. Wait, was he actually 22? Was he 23? Someone on Discord reported an account connected to BeeMorningVT to the